Welcome to Victorious Living. Are you ready to unlock your full potential and experience the abundant life God has planned for you? We all face challenges, but on Victorious Living, we will equip you with practical tools and inspiring stories to help you live a life of victory. Let's prepare ourselves to learn something new today. Before we jump in, let's spread the victory. Share this video with someone who needs a fresh perspective. You were created for greatness. Let's dive in and discover how to live a life of victory.
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Victorious Living. You are so important to God. He thinks about you all the time. He loves you so much that He gave His one and only Son on the cross. You need to live victorious. If you're going through struggle, it's not that God is not there or He is not answering your prayer. It's just we need to find out a way, the right way. Just like Google Map, when we don't go right, it always redirects us. So today is the day. Maybe He will redirect some actions or something that we are doing that is not right. Insanity is when you do the same thing and expect a different result. So today, I have an amazing guest for you who can help us to know more about God, know more about Christ. And we're going to hear her testimony. And we are here totally for you to live in victory. So welcome to the show one more time. And thank you so much for coming to the show.
You betcha. Happy to be here.
We're going to know you more. And for those people who don't know you, can you introduce yourself?
My name's Darlene Hatfield. I am a resident of Pahrump, Nevada. I started working with Messages of Faith Ministry, I think the same class as you did, spring of last year, and progressing my way to senior. I don't have my little SR yet, but I'm gonna. I am active in my church. I'm an elder in my church. I'm getting ready to start ministry training with Foursquare Church. I work at Nevada Outreach, and I'm the adult education person, plus I run the supervised visitation program. So,
and you're very good with kids. You have you are mainly a wonderful teacher for young adults.
I enjoy kids.
Yeah,
I do.
So thank God for all that you do. So we'll dive into your testimony. How did you find God?
Oh, that is interesting. So I was not raised in the church. I most definitely, we were kind of Christmas and Easter churchgoers, and I think it was mostly so my mom could buy us cute hats, I'm not going to lie, and cute little dresses, but I was not raised in the church. I was the kid in high school who told everyone I was an atheist. I didn't even really know what it meant, but it was so, keep in mind, this was the late 70s, early 80s, and it was so funny to watch people go, oh, when you tell them you're an atheist. And as a kid, I was just delighted in that. It was fun. So that's what I did.
There is some reaction in people, let me say that.
Absolutely. And if you look at that time, the big religious names, Jim Bakker, Tammy Faye Bakker, Jimmy Swaggart, these people were clowns. I'm sorry. So far as I sure didn't want to be that. And to me, that's what the church was. Very televangelist. We'll just go there. It wasn't a good look. It wasn't appealing. It didn't draw me in. And then when I was 19, I started dating a Christian boy. And I had problems with that because, but he was cute, so I dated him. Anyhow, started dating a Christian boy, and he took me to his church. And verse by verse through the Bible, the pastor could go for 2 hours with no notes. And that was how well he knew the Bible. Every single thing, if you're in there in the Bible, he would have a Bible in his hand, waving it around, talking about what the Word of God means. And it was eye-opening for me. And I did make a commitment at that time. And then that boy and I broke up. And I started dating the man who is currently my husband. We just had our 38th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while. But I broke up with my Christian boyfriend, and my husband is lapsed Catholic. So we continued going to that church, but it didn't we ended up, after we got married, we moved to Reno, and the church was in Southern California. So,
Okay.
it didn't have the draw because we weren't both committed to going. So I just kind of wandered around. I would say I wandered around in the wilderness almost as long as Moses did. I was at it, wandering for for like 30 years. Yeah, my husband, let me do the math. Yeah, pretty close to 30 years. And then my daughter hit about 12 years old. And because we were married for 14 years before we had her. And it was just, I couldn't. So she was absolutely my little miracle baby. My daughter hit about 12 years old, and we were talking about something one time, and I had the thought go through my head, I am failing my child. I'm failing my child. She's way past VeggieTales. She's way past Hermie and Friends. I had all the good Christian DVDs. But at 12 years old, she was way past those. And we needed to be moving on into the meat of the Bible, right? I had made God and Jesus to her someone friendly, which I did not have. But real superficial, real shallow. So we started attending a Calvary Chapel church up in Reno, verse by verse, right? And it was actually kind of a fluke. I delivered newspapers. It was the way I could make the most money and still be home with my kid. I worked nights, my husband worked days, so we didn't have to put her into daycare, and we chose to homeschool. And I would listen to Coast AM on the radio every night. And it was when George Norrie was doing Coast AM, and I was getting really bored with the aliens. I'm sorry, I don't believe in aliens. I know there's demons, and I think they can probably look like aliens, but I don't believe in aliens, and I was bored. Well, my husband had to replace a headlight in my van, and to do that, you had to pull the battery. So he replaced my headlight in my van, put the battery back in, and all my radio stations reset. So when I got into my van and turned on my van in the morning, kicked on the radio, it was CSN, Christian Satellite Network, was the auto reset in my van. Yes, God is that good. And it was James McDonald. So as I was driving down to the back dock, about a 20-minute drive, I got to listen to James McDonald teach the Bible. And I very much liked how he taught, and got to the back dock, and honestly, some of the slowest and most sleep-inducing, and I can't do that, I'm not delivering papers, I got to stay awake, sleep-inducing worship music started playing, so I had to turn that off. Went back to Coast AM, but it kept popping back. I preset it on my radio, and it kept popping back. And at 4 o'clock, they had a pastor out of San Francisco, I think he was. And then at 4:30, they had a round table. And then at 5 o'clock, David Jeremiah comes on. And I was hooked. He was just starting his series, and it would play like 20 minutes every morning, just starting his series, Handwriting on the Wall, which is Book of Daniel.
Wow.
Yes. I went home that morning. I ordered the CD packages because I had a good CD player in my van. Ordered the CD packages, but I was back every single morning listening to David Jeremiah, and that's where I heard the advertising for the Calvary Chapel, Reno Sparks. And so that was in October. It was like the very first day of October. And January, I started taking my daughter to Calvary Chapel. She did not want to be involved in the youth program. She just stayed in the service with me. Pastor Tom is an amazing teacher, and it has just progressed from there. When we left Reno, we started at a Calvary Chapel church in Pahrump and ended up moving to the Foursquare Church. It just offered more. And we were invited by a dear friend who was on the worship team at the time. And so we started going there, and it's just been home. Yes. We've been there now since November of 2019.
So all those people who are watching and thinking that going to church is not important, what will you tell them?
If you have children and you're not going to church, there are a lot of outside influences that are pulling your child away from God that you don't even see. They're on the internet, they're in school, they're in the pages of school books, they're everywhere. And I can say completely, if you are a committed Christian believer, your child did not inherit that. And where they're going to get that is by being in church and being active in church. Find a good Bible study. Start a good Bible study. I wasn't prepared to teach the kids when I started in October of 2017. I was not prepared to teach a Bible study to kids. Goodness, you'll never find anything more rewarding than how kids will
Draw the best out of you.
Force you into studying the Bible. Because I will freely admit, I am prideful enough when they ask me questions. I want to have the answers.
Right. So I heard you say about gap theory.
Yes.
And please explain to many like us who don't know about it.
So gap theory is, it's not my theory. I've heard it stated by many, many people. Gap theory is the what we don't understand when we're looking at prophetic revelation in the Bible. The prophets, like Isaiah, saw everything as one vision. And it hit the high points of what was going to happen. With Isaiah, he prophesied a lot about what was going to happen when the Messiah came. But there were things that happened over that 700 years before the Messiah came. So gap theory is looking at these prophecies and understanding, you've got to think of a mountain range, understanding that the prophets saw the high points, the peak of the mountain, the peak of the mountain, the peak of the mountain, but never saw the valley of time in between those high points. And that is how prophecy is throughout the Bible. When you look at Daniel, his prophecies were laid out one after the other, after the other, after the other, without understanding hundreds of years happened in between the actual points that he mentioned. So, and I would always say, I had to tell somebody this last week, anytime we don't understand something, the fault is ours. We don't know enough yet. We will never know everything we need to know to understand God this side of heaven. We just can't.
Yeah, and we complain about why things don't come to pass in our timeline.
Right.
Imagine 700 years ago, Isaiah prophesied about Jesus coming.
Absolutely.
And when I got saved and I saw that I'm going to impact the world, I thought it's going to be the next day.
Let's take a look at Moses.
I really thought, I really thought today I'm saved, next day I'm winning the world. And I had to go through
Absolutely.
a lot of things to be where I am today. And I believe a lot of believers don't want to pay that price.
Right.
And between that prophecy timing, when the valley comes, they quit, because they think that, okay, God just said something and not delivering. What would you say to those people?
Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you were blessed by this message. Let's use this encouragement to spread hope and light, not only in our own lives, but also in our families and communities. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment and let us know how God is working in your lives. Stay victorious and be blessed.